the show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up low. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio, right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
And, of course, welcome to your Wednesday, or as I like to call it, Wack Job Wednesday on News Talk 1080 WTIC. We're going to talk about something specific today, and you know, I've always sort of distanced myself from all the crazy, or what I used to call crazy doomsday preppers, but you get older, and all of a sudden, that 25-year-old packet of food, you know, the food that lasts 25 years, that stuff starts to look interesting to you. You get a certain age, you go a certain place, you know, you see, I'll never forget, it was just recently, the wife and I went to Costco, and we saw this man in the aisle looking at the big, tall bucket of food, and he was there rubbing his chin, like you would normally see, like on television, like the guy who's contemplating something, rubbing on his chin, looking at the bucket. And my wife looks at it. She goes, "Hey, look, honey, this is that ration thing, that 25-year supply stuff. Is, you know, lasts for 25 years." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about whether or not I should get it." And I've never been so intrigued, not at the item, but just at somebody who would never consider it, considering it. And it immediately made me curious. I started looking at it going, maybe. I don't know. And so we had this phone call yesterday with a guy who said he is the brother-in-law of somebody who runs the Vivos Underground Company. I think the exact name of it is called Vivos Global Shelter Network, and it's everywhere. And I started looking up the website yesterday, and I sat around and I watched the video. Apparently, this has been featured on the Travel Channel, the Travel Network, and these things are serious. I want to get into some of the details today. I'm not going to play any of the audio, but I am going to detail some of the videos that I watched of several packages that you can buy. And the prices are interesting as well. It's all listed on the site, except for the ones that are like, you know, like group packages. Some of them you have to call and sort of figure out, just like you would any package. But when you hear the pricing, you're going to be pretty impressed, because from what I get, it is a one-time fee, because I'm assuming it's, you know, it's the end of the world as we know it, and you spend this one-time fee, and it's not that expensive. It's not that expensive. So we'll talk a little bit about that during Wack Job Wednesday today. I'm waiting on the O'Keefe media bit. According to sources, O'Keefe is supposed to be dropping it now. He had revealed that he is going to drop the first tranche at 3 p.m. Eastern. It is after 3 p.m. Of course, Reese on the radio is on. I've seen nothing yet, but I'm going to have to go through it during the commercial breaks. We'll see what we can find out. Let me say this before we get to the opening monologue, an abbreviated opening monologue, if I may. For those of you who pay attention to this palace intrigue and the stuff in Washington, according to several people, O'Keefe is about to reveal someone. And this is just speculative and some reports that say that someone inside the Trump administration is under scrutiny in these O'Keefe videos. That person in question is none other than the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. And I watched the videos. You may have known that I mentioned this yesterday. For those of you, I said, check out this teaser that James O'Keefe put out yesterday, and they're really, really quick clips. She had to slow them down. My wife and I she had to slow them down on a commercial to look at them, on a computer to look at them. And sure enough, one of the individuals that are featured in this was Pam Bondi. as well as Jeffrey Epstein, as well as Pfizer. So this teaser suggests that these are the 2 to 3 different videos that are going to be associated in this release. So again, we'll pay attention to it. I'm sure you are as well. If you get word of it that it's dropped, let us know in the chat room. Just go. By the way, I've got some information about the website, reaseonradio.com. There's a whole mess going on, but we figured it out, and we'll explain that to you as well. Now, to the opening monologue, with the little time that we have left. Miguel Cardona, former Secretary of Education under the Biden administration, has written an op-ed. Headline, Parents Deserve Choices, but not at public schools' expense. Did you get a chance to read this? This is where the problem is with bureaucrats. And when you read this, you start to realize why the homeschooling parents and students have a case against the public school system. No one wants them to succeed. Their success impedes public schools, which have been a failure. And the problem is, with guys like Cardona here, a Meriden alumni from Meriden, Connecticut. The problem with guys like him is that he wishes to continue to fund failing schools. He writes it in his op-ed, which goes to show you these people don't care about your children. They don't want the best education for them. I'll read some of it, but hear me out. Here's what he writes. Public education is the great equalizer. Like millions of American students across the country today, growing up, I had only what my neighborhood school provided. And in my case, it was a good start. It allowed an economically disadvantaged English learner to go on to earn a doctorate and advise the President of the United States. Still, I believe in school choice. In fact, I'm a product of school choice. I chose to attend a public technical high school instead of the traditional neighborhood option. 30 years later, I believe that choice helped me get to the position of Secretary of Education. My career as an educator, and more importantly as a father, confirms my belief that every parent should have options on how to educate their children. Whether they have chosen public schools, independent schools, parochial religious schools, charter or magnet schools, I have seen students flourish. Great opening. Until he does this, which completely undermines everything he just said. What I do not believe is reducing public education dollars to fund vouchers or academic scholarships to private institutions. While many of those institutions do great work preparing students, they take funding from underperforming schools that are so cash-strapped that they are already unable to provide students basic services or adequate learning conditions. What Cardona doesn't understand is that if the school is failing, we can't continue to fund them, suggesting that funding them is going to make them better. Cardona doesn't understand how anything works. I'm sure he understands how bureaucracies work, and that is, let's continue to throw money at a failing operation. That's not how anything should work. The problem with bureaucracy is they refuse to step away from bureaucracy and run it like you would any other private industry. Now, I know a lot of people are against that. I understand the libs don't say, well, you can't run education like a business. Why not? They are producing a product, aren't they? An educated populace. That's what we pay them to do. If they were a manufacturing mill of any sort, if they were just a manufacturing facility, what would they be doing? We'd be funneling the children in, and the factory workers would be sending out children at the end of their school year and sending them out as educated products to pretty much enrich the society. That's what they're doing. It would be like putting in clay and them coming out with beautiful vases or beautiful antiques, whatever the case may be. They would be coming out with some sort of product that was useful in society. But you're telling me that they keep pushing out useless, and I mean useless, dumb, uninformed idiots. And Cardona here says that we shouldn't defund these things, that we shouldn't shut them down. We should keep throwing money in to an establishment that keeps producing failure. How does that work? How is that going to make lives better in the state or in municipalities like Hartford, East Hartford, Bridgeport, Bristol? How does that make life better for them? Everybody knows that it doesn't, but that's the problem. He goes on. In fact, the national proliferation of voucher programs is contributing to the defunding of public education, an effort that the current administration seems to be accelerating with their policies. The impact of this will be felt for many years, not least our country's stand in the world, which will be dependent on the decisions that are made in education in the next few years. What do you think the impact is now? It's as if they don't see the current product as a failure. As if they're saying, give us another chance. I promise you we won't fail them again. At what point is enough enough? I don't understand why no one seems to get it. I mean, this, maybe the problem is that these folks do not understand basic math. Because, you know, my ex-wife used to say something to me all the time. And I used to poo-poo it and dismiss it. And I reveled in the idea. The way I manage my home, my wife would say, hey, can you look at the sink? I think there's a leak. And I would respond to her by saying, I have no idea how to do that. Just call a guy. You can't solve everything by throwing money at it, she used to say. You should at least know how to fix it in the event that we can't get a plumber, or a plumber is too expensive, or if we end up on a waiting list for a plumber, we're going to be saddled with the problem until one comes around. Money is not going to solve it. We have to learn how to do this on our own in the event of an emergency. Now, I used to beef at her about that because the truth was I just didn't want to do it. Truth was I figured we had the finance to do it. Let's just hire a guy to do it so I don't have to learn it. It was my own laziness. It's true. I admit it. I was lazy. I didn't want to have to learn it. In fact, I'll admit, sometimes I still do it. But the truth is, she had to force me to get under that sink and to figure it out. And I did. I figured it out, and now when there is a leak, now when there's a problem, now when my wife puts God knows what in our garbage disposal, I know how to fix that now. Even though I reluctantly get up underneath that sink because I don't want to be bothered, I know that I can do it. The point is, these folks, they don't want to fix the problem. It could be for 1,000 reasons. I could come up with a couple right off the top of my head. They don't want an intelligent electorate. They want to protect their own slush fund, which is the teachers union. Do you know one teachers union, the NEA, pulls in billions of dollars in dues? Billions of dollars in dues. And that money only ends up back in the coffers of politicians. I mean, it's like it's the craziest slush fund. But Cardona is a part of that problem. And he is out of the Biden administration, and he writes this op-ed telling people that the public schools are going to suffer. Public schools are going to suffer. The crazy part about this article is that never once does Cardona even consider the children suffering. There isn't an iota of compassion or interest even on what the children are dealing with. The conversation he's having here is talking about how the facilities are crumbling, how these schools are losing money and the infrastructure is awful, but never talking about the status of children and learning. That never seems to be the conversation. And when it's broached, you remember Randy Weingarten was approached about the loss of learning after COVID when she was forcing all of these schools to go down. She didn't have a response. She just felt awful. That's sad. That's really bad that we had so many children who suffered learning loss. But no one's ever talked about any remedies. And here you have parents who have decided enough is enough. I can't trust these people to educate my children. I can't trust these people to not indoctrinate them. I can't trust these people to put the priorities of reading, writing, and arithmetic over gender ideology and transgender sexual books. I can't get them to do it anymore. I have to take matters into my own hands. And they've decided to take matters into their own hands. And what do the education bureaucrats decide? No. We're going to go through obstacles in your way and stop you from taking it into your own hands. It is insane. It is crazy. And just like 2019, this should not be allowed to pass. According to some reports, I think there are like 40,000 families that are homeschooled in the state of Connecticut. Folks, if you can hear my voice, keep your foot on their necks. Do you understand me? Do not let up. You have the high ground. If there's anything morally ethical or someone has moral ethics on this, you do. You have the moral high ground. What you're doing is saving your children's lives. They don't care about your children. They care about money. And with all of this nonsense with that side talking about the oligarchy and the millionaires and the billionaires, talking about money over people, they are showing exactly who they are. They don't give two damns about you. They care about their power, their influence, and their coffers. Keep your foot on their necks. Do not let up. And you have a voice, and you have an outlet. That place is Reese on the radio. We'll be back. More news, more views, and don't forget it's Wack Job Wednesday on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC, News Talk 1080.
I don't even know what to say about this, but if there's anybody who can explain to me what in God's name is happening in New York. Did you hear about this, Roland, that there is a bronze 12-foot statue of an overweight black woman? Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I saw it online.
So you did see this. Okay. I don't know what I'm supposed to make of this. Like, what is the purpose of this? I don't know if it's pandering. I don't know if it's meant as a joke. It just out of nowhere. We were just like, here's an underrepresented group of people. Let's build them a statue and put it. For what? For what? This is the CBS affiliate in New York.
It's a plus-size woman. I'm a plus-size man. I'm African-American. It's the African-American woman statue. So just seeing another piece for me to stop and just have a moment with was very powerful.
Me being a plus-size black woman, I kind of looking at it was just like, oh, I wonder what me as a small child would have thought looking at something like that. Representation.
The piece is part of...
Okay, stop it. Okay? Let's just stop it. It must stop. It's got to stop. It's embarrassing. It just is. I don't know. I'm not even going in there. I'm not going there. Because I'm immediately going to be called all types of names because I won't just accept it, right? I'm supposed to look at that and just go, what's the problem? And I'm going, a myriad. slew of problems. But okay, all right, but it's New York. The place, I say this all the time, and I know it sounds mean, but I don't care. I'm from there. And I'll never go back. I don't want to step foot in that city. I don't want to look at it. It is a hellhole, a cesspool. I hope the place drowns underwater in so many ways. It's not a viable city. If you thought Los Angeles was a crap hole, New York is far worse than that. It's just awful. There's nothing redeemable about the city anymore. Just no more. It's over. Did you see a bunch of 12-year-olds attack the police in Times Square? Did you watch that video? Roland, did you happen to see that today?
No, I didn't.
Oh my goodness. And here's to show you how crazy this is. Apparently, these young hooligans are a Tren de Aragua offshoot. Like they've got a satellite gang in New York who are running up on the police. Talk about blatant disregard for authority. A bunch of 12-year-olds who I presume are not even American citizens who came up with a Tren de Aragua satellite gang. One of the kids in the middle of the melee, I kid you not, folks, watch the video. In the middle of the melee, one of the kids jumps on one of those Razor scooters and scoots off after he attacks police. Just hops on a scooter and zooms away. I look at that and I just go, what's going on? When I'm going to say something. I can't help it. But people are going to be, when I was in my 20s, my mid to late 20s, living in Manhattan, we had a couple of rough kids in the neighborhood. They were a couple of ruffians. They ran around unsupervised through Washington Square Park. And the kids were a little rude, and disruptive, disorderly. And they would approach my little group at Washington Square Park who hung out there every day. And the kids would be there cursing, asking for cigarettes and things like that. And I would look at them and I would just go, hey, short stack. Listen, no offense, but please take that nonsense someplace else. If one of you kids get a little unruly, a lot of people are going to get arrested because this group does not suffer fools. Okay? Somebody in this group, and I'm not going to mention who it is, but if you approach them, they are not ashamed to punch a little 12-year-old. Okay? Just please, just go away and keep it moving. And I know these people are sitting up here going, what do you do? They're kids. I don't know. I don't know what you do. But you have to ask yourself at some point, the level at which these kids are approaching adults and the police. Like, if these kids will do this to the police, what do you think they'll do to you? And you're going to have to ask yourself, what are you going to take the moral high ground? No, I don't want to beat up a kid. No, sorry. You're just going to have to take one. It's one of those things where you're going to just have to take the L. He was 7. He was holding a gun. I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know what anyone will do. 860-522-WTIC. Tony's in Southington. How are you, Tony?
How you doing, buddy? This is non-political today. Song request that you may or may not have heard of before because you're the same generation as I am.
Okay.
But I want to give you a producer, Babyface. I love you, babe.
I like Babyface when I was a kid, but you know what? I have banned all slow.
You, babe.
I have banned all slow jams from my repertoire. I will not listen to an R&B slow jam ever again. And I'll tell that story one day, but it's actually pretty funny. But I'm against the R&B slow jam. Babyface is at the top of the list of that band list. Thank you, sir. Let's go to Jim in Wellington. How are you, Jim?
Yes, sir. Hey, did I miss something? Is this non-political day?
No. We're talking about anything and everything. Right now, we're talking about this offshoot Trende Aragua satellite group that attacked the...
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Bowery, yeah. Argentina's version of, Venezuela's version of the Bowery Boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, listen, they've been around for a while. They're picked because they are juveniles. That's the first thing. Second thing is they live in either the Row or the Roosevelt. The New York police can't go in there and investigate in any way, shape, or form.
Did those particular kids that they're because I know that three, at least, I think I remember the police commissioner in New York City gave a press conference, I think today, if not yesterday, and said that 3 have been arrested so far of this little offshoot gang. But they say that the ringleader, oddly enough, and this is the crazy part, Jim, the ringleader is 12. He was the one who was running off, who got away on a little razor scooter.
Yeah, well, it goes back a little further. At one time, that the ringleader was older, and I believe they caught him out of New York State, someplace else. I don't remember. That goes back to last.
Yeah. I remember that story. I remember that was the one where the 2 police officers got into an altercation with many of them, and Alvin Bragg released them within 48 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, it's just a test because they're just getting turned around right back out in the street, just like the rest of the illegal immigrants. And at what point is it going to take? Do you have to kill a cop? Or I don't know.
You know what? I'll put it to you this way. Here's a perfect example, Jim. You know what? I'll take another story that's related to this, right? Imagine Daniel Penny was on the subway with one of these 12, 13, 14-year-olds harassing people on the subway, and he tried to subdue one of those kids, and one of those kids lost their lives. What do you think the reaction would have been? Because that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen next.
We saw the reaction when the last gentleman who got acquitted, who Alvin Bragg and company just that was another horrendous. They went after that guy, basically calling him a murderer, etc. We saw the reaction.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying,
right.
is that you're going to get a situation where one of these young kids, 10, 12-year-old, is going to get the drop on somebody who's in the city, and in an effort to save or preserve their own life or the life of a loved one or innocent people, one of these kids are going to get killed. And what do you think is going to happen in New York? They'll turn that victim who had to save his own life or preserve his own life, they'll turn him into a criminal.
Yeah, well, let me end with this. Why is it that we don't, or maybe we do, have somebody in the Row Hotel or in the Roosevelt undercover in some way, shape, or form? I'm almost positive we do. I can't tell you why, but just to keep tabs on what the heck is going on.
Indeed.
Even though we know what's going on.
Indeed.
And take it from there on. And it blows my mind. So why doesn't the city of New York put 4 or 5 or 10 homeless people in that hotel?
Exactly. I think right now,
maybe some poor people.
What we're watching at the Roosevelt Hotel is state-sponsored gang activity because they're being paid to be in there. That's what it is.
So it's the whole process goes against the poorest of the poor. It goes against the migrants who are abused more by their own country.
Indeed.
And the American citizen who's getting abused even more. And then federal law. When are the people in New York or out in California going to wake up?
And it's crazy because guess what they're going to do? The crazy part is they're going to end up voting for somebody to be mayor of the city who is going to probably exacerbate that even further, and that's Andrew Cuomo, a guy who's going to come in.
He will run that. Absolutely. He's going to run that up. So by the time he gets done, he's exactly right. He's going to run. Oh my gosh, I'm the savior of the poor, downtrodden, coming across our shores.
You're 100% right.
Done, well, that's all I'll say. Thanks for giving me the time.
You got it, boss man. I appreciate you. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think Andrew Cuomo is going to get into that city and clean it up at all. I don't think so at all. And it's funny because he's polling at 33%. He's polling higher than the current mayor, Eric Adams. And they're pulling out all the stops to keep Andrew Cuomo from being mayor. But you know what? The guy's got name recognition. I mean, he is New York. So who knows? We'll take a break. We'll come back. More news, more views. I want to talk about this Vivos underground fortress. One of the facilities I'll explain to you in a little bit, which is insane. I was wondering what happens if you're in this facility, right? It's Doomsday. You're underneath in this bunker, right? And let's say some criminal activity happens inside the bunker. Somebody's assaulted, somebody, steals, whatever the case may be. What do you do about that when you're locked into this society? Well, I'm going to explain that to you. Apparently, this Vivos Underground thing, they thought of everything. So we'll break that down when we get back. So stick around. More news, more views. It's Wack Job Wednesday on Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio. Ask your doctor if common sense is right for you. On News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Back to the phones we go real quick. What's going on, Mark?
Yeah, real quick. Last half hour, you mentioned like how many homeschoolers there are. So there's close to 44,000.
Correct.
What number you didn't give, which I think is important, and I hate to bore people with numbers, but they're important in this case, is that number had doubled in the last 5 years.
Yes.
It was just 22,000 5 years ago.
That's correct.
So what is the public school system in Connecticut doing to offset the decrease in numbers as they're asking for more money?
Correct.
Like, so for the 22,000 more in 5 years, that represents like $483 million that they don't have to spend anymore. Now, I know they get paid per pupil, but this is the time now to consolidate schools, to maybe shut down a school or two. I don't think they're doing any of that.
No, there's no interest in it. In fact, that's what Cardona is talking about. That's the crux of his article. He says that he doesn't believe that it should be, this school choice thing should be put at the public schools' expense. That those schools that are failing those kids, where clearly no one's graduating, clearly there are truancy problems, and there's no proficiency, those schools shouldn't lose money because, of course, what happens when they do? You have to shut them down and start putting kids in other places. Even if you have to bus kids to other schools because of these failing schools, it doesn't matter. The offset as far as how much it costs is much less than what it would cost anyway, right? You still got the same money that's going to those kids, but the bottom line is that the failing schools, you need to get not just the schools closed down, but you got to get rid of those teachers. They're
So are we expected that it's going to double in another 5 years? And if it does, then it doubles again in 10?
It probably, if they never change it, right? And I think that's part of the whole plan. Why we get rid of the Board of Education, that's one. Two, we have a overhaul of the public school system, as it were. And I think the most important part, and I think it's to what you're saying, is that when they finally realize that more and more parents are going to the homeschooling, plan, that these public schools have to decide on what they're going to do. Either they're going to compete or they're going to continue to fail. Because if you lose more students, what are you going to do with all of the teachers that are there? You have to start firing them. Or their other plan, and I think this is probably why we've seen it so much, why there's been such an interest in keeping immigrant families in the state. Because the more who we hear, those kids go directly to the public school system.
They fill the slots, but they might not be able to fill the boxes with success and graduation and, being able to, pass the test required and all that. Those still get bumped along. And I guess I'll leave you with this. Too bad there's not a James Rutkowski, not from Hartford, just from anywhere in Connecticut. Too bad you don't have, like, somebody calling that's willing to speak openly, even if they didn't identify themselves. But I find it very suspect. With everything going on with education, you don't have one person calling on a regular basis
They won't. It's funny
odd to
because
me.
isn't that one of the things that you and I have realized lately that, and nothing against the people who want to be whistleblowers, but their biggest problem, and I've dealt with this so far 4 times, there are more people who are concerned that speaking out they're going to lose their job. Not that I don't understand that, but at the same time is you can't be a half whistleblower. You can't half step on this. If there's something going on at your school, you got to be willing to risk it all to fix it. So I don't know. I got to go to a break.
Especially when kids are involved.
Exactly,
Okay,
especially when kids are involved. We got to take a break. Let's get our first check of weather and traffic with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. Happy Wednesday, Mark.
Same to you, Reese. Thank you.
It's Reese on the radio. And don't say we didn't warn you on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
All right, so it's official. We don't have any word on the Pope, or at least the selection for a Pope. So apparently they're going to have to wait another day and see whether or not. I think it's 2/3 vote. Yeah, it's 2/3 vote for them to, I guess, affirm who is going to be the next Pope. I'm assuming a lot of people, Catholics, of course, are very excited about this. I'm watching it as close as I possibly can. I will admit I probably don't cover it or follow it as much as I used to, the Catholic faith, in that, as far as like the Vatican and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to get more information on it. I'm ripping up paper here. Don't forget, today is Wack Job Wednesday. We're going to talk about this bunker, Vivos underground shelter, and they have different styles in all of this. And I'm looking at them, and I'll tell you right off the bat, I am going to reiterate what I said yesterday, not interested in living in this bunker. I'm staying outside with everybody else. You know, let the meteor come down and fall on my face. Like someone said yesterday. Also, this Pakistan-India thing, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Because I thought about this, and I was talking to my wife about it. I said, in a war between 2 nuclear powers, India and Pakistan, who have been fighting over the Kashmir Mountains for thousands of years, I kept saying, who do you think is the good guy or the bad guy in all of this, right? Who's provoking who? Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? That's how everybody looks at this stuff, especially geopolitically. That's how they do. I try not to. But in my head, I'm saying to myself, the news media is going to pick a hero and a villain, a victor and a villain, whatever, a victor and a villain, or a victim and a villain. And I was thinking about this, and I said, does anybody remember when Pakistan told the United States, Osama bin Laden? Nah, I ain't seen him. Does anybody remember that? I do. I'm sorry, who are you looking for? Osama bin Laden? Nah. Who's that guy? The most wanted terrorist in the world? Nah, never heard of him. What did he do again? I'm just saying. And sure enough, where was he found? Pakistan's backyard. That's all I'm going to say about this. If you've got a point of view, please share it. 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. I'm just saying. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic on the 8s with Jason Caterina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, buddy.
President of the Chris Murphy Fan Club, Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
That's right. Wack Job Wednesday here on News Talk 1080 WTIC. I don't know. I don't know who is like one of these doomsday preppers, or even if you're a casual one, I kind of want to hear from you because, you know, I want to be convinced, but in a very, in a serious way. I want to be convinced. And what motivates you? And I know there's some people who are way over the top, and I get that, but I want to be, because I'm obviously curious about it, And my claustrophobia, like I'm either going to have to, deal with it or I'm just going to have to, face whatever's coming our way, so to speak. But if you're one of these people who are interested in this, I want to hear from you. Okay? I'm really, really interested in hearing from you. So stand by. We'll take your phone calls in a second. Let me talk to you about real quick about this Vivos underground bunker type thing. Let me give you the actual. It's called Vivos Global Shelter Network. They've got a website. It's called TerraVivos.com. It's TerraVivos.com. TerraVivos.com. And they've got Vivos X Point. They've got Vivos Indiana, Vivos Europa 1. They have the Vivos Shrine Complex, which is just one private bunker that you and your family stay in. It's set up like an apartment. They're not exactly underground, so to speak, but they're fortified above ground units. And they are in an entire area. It's like a little neighborhood. It's got access to the road, so you can drive right in, get your family in. Should you have 3 days, if not 3 hours, before something happens. The Europa 1, forget about it. It looks like a resort. It looks like one of those, high-end, resorts you pay for when you go to Jamaica or whatever it is. But the one that I found interesting was Vivos, Indiana. And according to this space, it's got stairs that you go down all the way to the bottom. It's got a very group-like bunker feel. They've got a mess hall where everybody eats. They've got a small theater, where there's a television unit and everybody sits out on the comfy chairs. Big giant kitchen. Everything, of course, is electrical. 2 or 3 refrigerators there. Every sleeping unit is kind of a bunk bed facility. They've got medical. Doctors will be down there. They can perform, I don't know about surgeries, but they can definitely take care of you down there. They've got medical gurneys. They've got irrigation as well as hydroponic for growth of, vegetables, as they say. And I was looking at it, and while I'm watching, I'm going, what if somebody runs amok? What if somebody does something criminal? Say, he gets into a fight with another individual and he bullies them. You're always going to get some reprobate, okay? I was going to use the A word, but you know what I mean. You get one guy. So what happens if that guy goes off the rails, he's beating up somebody, abuses someone? Well, it turns out that this place has a detention center as well. Now, I don't know whether or not there's going to be like juries and any of that other stuff. They're going to have like makeshift trials underground. You're going to be there for a while. I thought that was interesting that they had that there. But it looks, I don't know, it looks like you would imagine in the movies. It's almost identical to what you see in the movies. A lot of them people use as vacation spots. They got the one guy who I believe the caller's brother was on the video. He says that there were there's an underground limestone cavern, and it's got all these sections, and people were already there with their campers, their fifth wheels, as they're called. My wife's crazy about these things. The fifth wheels are the ones that you hook up behind your pickup truck, and you drag along. And there were plenty of them inside. The ceiling height was roughly about 7-8 feet high. So it's not, it's not like cathedral level. It's, they're tall, but you feel like you're in a cave because that's where you are. But they have people and they have, the outlets where you can hook up. It's weird. But I'm looking at these. I'm not in any way intrigued. Like, I'm not looking at it going, hey, we should buy one. My wife, on the other hand, very, very excited about this. She's already thinking about signing us up. I'm trying to do everything I can to talk her out of it. I don't want her anywhere near our credit cards or any of that stuff. Let me ask, Roland, before I go to the phones, anything like this you're interested in?
Well, I watched the show Fallout on Prime.
Yes. Okay. Somebody was mentioning that yesterday.
I watched that and Paradise.
Oh, okay,
which
Paradise.
is
Okay.
on, I think, is it on?
Is that Netflix?
No.
Hulu.
It's on Paramount.
Oh, on Paramount. Okay.
I believe it could. Well, it could be on. I don't remember where. I'm
Okay.
all juggled with the apps. I watched 29 shows. So.
Way too many.
Yeah,
anyway,
way too many.
So what do you think about this whole concept of being underground?
That's scary. I'm claustrophobic, so
really
that would be very difficult for me.
Now,
And I probably wouldn't. I'm probably not one of the people that would get picked anyway. So
yeah, well, no, but that's the thing about this Vivos thing. You can purchase them.
I can purchase my own.
Yeah, you can purchase your own, but they have different ones that you can purchase. Let me show you what some of them are. The shelters that they have here, according to them, and I'm going to go to one of the details. So the Indiana one, which is the sort of like the group space where everybody is sort of lumped in together, they have a pricing module here that says that the pricing is anywhere to about $19,000 to $50,000. Here's the shelter pricing. Let me go here. So Vivos, Indiana, it houses up to 80 people, significant discounts available for key skills. If you have key skills, that price, $35,000 per person.
Wow.
The 24, I guess it's up to 24 bunker, the Vivos Point, that is $55,000 per private bunker. But again, this is a one-time cost.
Yeah.
They have the Vivos Europa 1. 500 plus live in these things with suites, private apartments and suites that are available. They don't give the pricing on that. They have to contact them for more information. Mm-hmm. The Vivos Quantum that has 6 to 100 people or hundreds, that is priced anywhere from $195,000 and up. Again, remember, this is the end of the world as we know it. You're paying that $1,000. It's not like you have to keep paying that over and over again.
Okay, this is my question.
Yes.
It is the end of the world.
Yes.
What are they using the money for?
That's a great question. Probably to build more bunkers, I would imagine. But this is your spot. Should that happen, and they'll take that money and they'll build other bunkers because these things are actually being built. These are being built as we speak. They're buying the lands and then they're building them and they're showing the construction. So apparently they're permitted to do this in a crazy way. I looked at them. I watched the videos. They've been on the Travel Channel and people are serious about this. Let's get to the phones. 860-522-WTIC. Simsbury Joe is on the line. What's going on, buddy?
Well, I can tell you exactly who's going to occupy these bunkers.
Yes.
It's going to be the individuals with the largest guns and the most ammunition.
Agreed.
Because your $30,000 or $50,000 a person is going to be meaningless if the SHT whatever it is, you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah.
It's going to be those people who are aware of it being there are going to show up with weaponry, and they're going to make sure that either you don't get in or they do. So I don't think people are really thinking it through.
Right.
But,
so you're considering the one that says, like the Vivos Indiana, that says it's $35,000 per person, significant discounts available for key skills. So you're talking about those guys would probably get a discount if they are the ones with the weaponry.
5 finger.
Well, the thing is, and I'm not interested in buying one because I'm not sure I want to live in a world that is going to only be the survivors of people who came from underground. I'm not sure, what's waiting for me up top.
Right.
But if something happens, I'm not making it from Connecticut to Indiana. No one is.
That's true.
That's just nuts. There's not going to be, okay, here's your warning. Go to the bunkers, please. Be orderly. It doesn't work like that.
Never does.
But I want to talk about bunkers.
Yes.
So this whole thing that's coming out now, I find it very, very interesting that the government is not standing up and screaming that, oh, this is baloney, because for many years we've known all about what's called DUMBs, which are deep underground military bases.
Exactly.
And there have been many, many rumors about what goes on in these DUMBs, some of them extremely, extremely bad as it relates to children. And I just think that when it was Catherine Austin Fitz who came out with this, and she ended up on Tucker Carlson.
Right.
And I just look at it and I say to myself, okay, it's not being denied the same way they don't deny what goes on in the Denver airport underneath the ground there. They're potentially alerting us to something in their own way. But I've got no desire to live underground with a bunch of people, because if something happens that's that severe, it's going to be just like that TV show Fallout, where you have many generations of people living underground. And, to me, that's just no fun.
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, it's almost, I almost feel like underneath the ground for that amount of time, you're always going to get that one person who's going to test the limits of anarchy and order. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And what do you do?
I got a question for you, not related to the tunnels.
Yes, sir.
What do you think Trump's big announcement is going to be that's supposed to be absolutely massive before he goes to the Middle East?
I don't know.
He's got some big announcement he's been teasing.
I heard it this morning, and I'll be honest with you, I can't second guess the guy, so I refuse. Apparently that's supposed to happen today at 4:00 is the announcement. Is that right?
Oh, okay. I hadn't seen anything.
Yeah, it's supposed to happen somewhere in the evening. He always waits until, for some odd reason, at the end of the news cycle, like 4 or 5 o'clock, so that everybody's talking about it the next morning. But yes, it's supposed to happen later on today.
Well, it's going to be very interesting because they've already done away with gain of function research.
Yep.
Which I'm sure there'll be a lot of scientists that'll still mess around with it just so they can kill us all. But it's going to be something big, not related to tariffs, and I'm not sure what it is. But
hey, I will tell you this thing about the DUMBs, the deep underground military base,
California, where somebody shot at a substation in the 19th century that brought down and actually burned the entire telegraph network at the time. And so it's absolutely not out of question that there could be a serious electrical failure, which would lead to a scenario where a lot of Americans could end up underground for whatever reason. So I think the idea of prepping for the Doomsday is not that theoretical.
Gotcha. It might be one of the, like I said, the more and more I find out, the more I'm interested in finding out more. It's incredible. I'm going to watch that documentary tonight, and I'm going to see if I can actually get some background on this. I might talk about this again. Thank you, Maxwell. I appreciate you, sir. All right, let's take a break. More news, more views when we return. Let's get another check of our weather and traffic with Jason Katarina with weather and Mark Christopher, who's in the BPS Traffic Center. Not Doomsday prepping anytime soon. Who's going to take his equipment down? Who's going to take all your equipment?
Not at all. Hey, if you're heading into Hartford right now, if you are...
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
We'll get to the phone calls in a second. We got some veterans on the line, so we'll get to them as soon as we can. But let's do this thing.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
We'll also read your comments in the chat room on Doomsday prepping. I got a great message on X. Stupidest thing I read today. This one, I knew about this a couple of days ago, but I read the whole article today, and now I'm really, really ticked off about it. And that is Mark Zuckerberg has this grand vision they're calling in the Wall Street Journal. Most of your friends will be AI in the future, according to Mark Zuckerberg. And this I've got a problem with, and I know some people have a problem with this as well. Nobody wants fake friends. It's tough enough dealing with fake people. Nobody wants fake friends or people who are artificial, for that matter. One of the biggest problems that I have with having friendships or keeping friendships is because a lot of my old friends are very superficial, boring, and self-involved. And I don't bother with those people. Maybe this is a guy thing. And guys, if you're in the chat room, if you want to call up and opine about it, that's fine. But I'm under the impression that men of a certain age, have a significantly small circle of friends. What I mean by that is maybe 4, maybe. And 4 I still think is stretching it. I just do. I don't trust guys with a whole lot of friends. You know, like if I see a group of guys who like 5, 6, 7 guys in a group, that never fares well. And how do I know that? Because I was one of those guys who had a large number of friends. We had TJ, Rodney, Jace, Derek, Jamie, David, and myself. That's 7 guys. And it was, again, and when we all got older and we were smart enough to know better, sure enough, those guys parted ways and turned themselves into their own faction of maybe 3 people, like regularly. With the exception of David, who passed away, unfortunately, hit by a train. Long story. Anyway, Jamie, TJ, and myself probably lasted the longest as a friendship was considered. Jason, Derek stayed friends as Rodney did. He was a fly-by-night guy, but he was always moving all over the place. So it turned out of 7 guys, it turned into groups of 3 as we got older. It's just, it was unheard of for guys to be in these large groups. So here's, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg saying that the average person has about 15 friends. 15? I can't keep up with that many stories, sob stories, and lives, and people who were involved in their lives, their girlfriends, their wives, their jobs. 15 people? I haven't had enough time remembering what my wife told me 15 minutes ago. Way too many people. Let's get a check of the weather and traffic. Jason Katarina and Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Mark, how many friends do you have? Can you count them on one hand? Or do you have a slew?
Yeah, 5 or 6, yeah.
Okay,
maybe
5 or
an
6.
extra finger, yeah.
Like, no, but I'm talking about, like, close friends. I know one of your buddies is, like, your lawyer. So that's like you've known him for, what, 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so name how many of your friends with that scope of time that you keep close by. It's got to be a good 3 or 4.
Well, one of my friends I met in 2nd grade, so we've had a relationship since like 1971.
Goodness gracious,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky, and you know what? He's smart. He's retired now. So
I haven't even kept a marriage that long. Jeez, man, how do you do it?
I'm not going there, Reese.
No, you're not.
You got a good one now, so take care of that. That's all you got to worry about now. Hey, if you're heading into
the self-proclaimed love child of Rush Limbaugh.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Read your comments in a second. Let's go to the phones. I've got George in St. Louis. George, are you one of these doomsday preppers, sir?
No, I'm not, because it's all over anyway. no matter where you're held up.
Even with all of this,
because of that guy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm calling because of that guy that said we're all going to die if the grid goes down.
Yes, right.
I know something a little about the grid.
That you do.
For one thing, there's enough protection devices out there, overcurrent, undercurrent relays, over voltage and under voltage relays that shut down in nanoseconds. Each span you see up there, the wires that you drive around, the poles and the transmission wires, they're grounded every 4th span. Every 4th span, they're grounded. Everything's isolated. Everything's protected right out to the power plants.
So you don't think we have anything to worry about, George?
I read the scenario for Black Startup.
Okay.
The worst case in Black Startup, if everything went down, here's what happens, Reese. They're going to rely on nuclear plants. Are going to bring them up first. That's going to supply the energy to the other power plants. It takes energy to make energy.
Of course.
So, devices and things inside the power plant use electricity. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, and if everything's dead, you have to bring up certain power plants and then take that energy and transmit it and bring up startup for other power plants.
Okay, but let's get to the
follow what
question
I'm
at
saying?
hand. Are you remotely, like, even with that, would you trust one of these sort of doomsday shelters? Would you even consider
No.
it? You'd stay above ground.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
Suppose we had a nuclear war.
Yes.
A nuclear war. Everything is irradiated. The water, the soil, everything.
Correct.
You're dead anyway in 2 months. You're dead. Another scenario is what Joe talks about all the time, which is our magnetosphere is gone. In other words, the magnetic field that protects us is gone. Well, the microwave radiation from the sun would kill all the plant life. All the plant life is dead. Guess what happens when all the plant life is dead? No oxygen. There's no oxygen. You're dead there anyway.
It's so funny you thought you said that, because these quote unquote underground bunkers that they're talking about, right? They talk about hold on. Let me tell you what it says. It says in this whole long video, it talks about the air purification system that is installed underground, and I'm going,
where are they getting that air from?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was running. I was like, in my head, I'm going, wait a minute.
They're taking what supposedly is irradiated air and they're pumping it through underground.
Yeah, a filtration system. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and the water's polluted from the radiation. So any way you look at it, you're dead. This is why people want to, if they're in the worst case scenario, they want to locate themselves 1 or 2 miles from a blast zone.
Yeah.
They want to go fast.
Thank you, George. Let me read thank you, man. I appreciate it. I want to read what Dr. Way Cooler on X just posted. He says, Reese, the doomsday prepper places are just a scam. Think about it. The end of the world hits. They've already got your money and spent it. All you have to do is build 1 or 2 and pretend there are more as you take in the cash. It's the end of the world. No more money. I mean, yeah, I can imagine. Imagine if you had actually given these people $195,000 and they tell you it's 3 days to the end of the world, and you get there and somebody tells you, what doomsday? What doomsday shelter? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I look at this and I go, that's why I said, look, I'm one of those guys that just said, I'm putting my head between my legs and I'm kissing my butt goodbye. Forget about all that. Fulton's in Waterbury. How are you, sir?
I think this is the new global warming. The new global warming.
Oh, nice. Nice.
We gave up on global warming. It was killing whales and stuff. So now we're going to do this. And they're going to tell you this. Like, what stops the $3 bullet from taking the $35,000 guy? You know what I mean? Like, honestly.
I think
if I'm sitting outside the gate, how do they get in? I don't understand.
You know what? This may be sort of a pacifier for the end of the world, right? You get into this
I got something for the end of the world.
Right.
So how? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that a pacifier for the end of the world is, right, you end up in this underground bunker. You think that you're protected from this, and then calamity strikes. As George just said, there is no oxygen purification because it's all radiation. It doesn't work. And you're just underground, which in essence ends up being your tomb. And, you end up dying in there anyway because they run out of oxygen, and you only end up dead underneath the earth.
Sounds like COVID. Put a mask on, right?
Right. So true.
But I was going to say, but most people are grossly out of shape. Like, if your car doesn't work, how far can people walk? They can't even get to the refrigerator to get a snack without losing their breath. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Can you walk down and fish? Like, can you clean a fish? Are you going to grow vegetables? Like, if it's the end of the world, it's Little House on the Prairie. I don't know. Who wants to be around?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of this just sounds crazy suspect. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm letting everybody else talk about it. Now I'm coming to my senses. I'm going, I don't think anybody can convince me to go into one of these shelters.
Right, you're going to get from Texas to Indiana. Like, what are you guys going to walk there? You and your wife holding hands?
Exactly.
I don't know. But here's my question. What's the difference between the MS-13 guys that jumped the cop and the little gangs that steal cars in Harvard?
Hartford and Waterbury and stuff that are 12 and 13 doing the same thing. They hit a cop and killed them.
Yeah.
Stolen car. Like, what's the difference?
Well, to the people in Connecticut, it's the age. You know, for them, it's like, they didn't know any better, and we can't punish them to the full extent of the law because they're just kids. But I'm like, hey, man, adult things, you do adult time. That's the way I look at it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Let's go to Fred in Middletown. How are you, sir?
Hey, so nuclear war would be another thing. But there's a bunch of scenarios where if you could get gone, like underground for a month or two, civil war, if not nuclear war, you know, there's all kinds of bleep hitting the fan, and then you could come up after it calmed down. But yeah, that sounds like a scam. Yeah, and there's some people who might be able to survive. I mean, what are they doing the space station for here? I'm thinking, you know, there's by plans for using the same air for 10 years. Not that would be what you'd get for your $195K. Yeah, and meanwhile, one of your biggest sponsors, of course, is the guy who gets you out of your timeshare thing, right?
That's a great point. That is a great point, because if I don't want to be a part of this underground bunker, I'm sure all I'll have to do is call him and get me out of my timeshare. You bring up hold on, but Fred, you bring up a good point about the International Space Station. Now, is there a way that you can create oxygen?
Well, I mean, air, I got to believe that just for example, now we find out about this stuff, and we've all been hearing about it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There's underground something in Middletown that you could drive a car around, like, you know, nuclear.
Like a nuclear fallout shelter? Yeah.
Yeah, like from back in the day, you know, when they didn't think about, well, if we have to come up, or I don't know. But in any event, the technology is so far ahead of what we know about. I got to believe that they got a plan for breathing without taking in outside air. Jesse Kelly spoke of the Hamas tunnels, and he said that he doubted if you could flood those. He said they were probably like flood resistant. You know, he'd seen them, he'd toured them in better times.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I've seen those tunnels in Gaza that go through there, and my claustrophobia is way too much for that. I can't.
Oh,
the idea of not being able to stand straight up, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it at all.
Imagine some poor bastard in the Navy and submarine duty. Let me quote a quote from my favorite human being on Earth, Shannon Joy. Quote, just covering all this, the tunnels, the nuclear, quote, only God can fix this, end quote. All right, thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I thought about that too. The submarine, actually, the wife and I we were in Norfolk, Virginia, and we went to that military museum in Norfolk. I got to call Roseanne. Can you come here real quick? There was it's in Norfolk, but it's right on the water, and it's a military. What was the name of that military museum that we took pictures of? We walked inside the ship and at Norfolk. What do you remember the name of it? If you can look it up. But we went inside those ships, and they had inside the ship, they had the sleeping quarters, which were just these bunk beds. And, you know, you can actually, some of them, they were cordoned off where you couldn't walk in, but other ones, they would let you sort of lie down on the beds. I'm 6'3", and I couldn't get into one of those things. It was too short. It was like 5 feet tall. Well, okay, the Battleship Wisconsin in Norfolk, Virginia. If you've ever been there, let me know. But yeah, they have this little area you can actually lay in the bunk beds or the little barracks that they had there. And I had to sleep. I had to bend my knees inside the thing because it was like for 4-foot people. I said 5 feet. It's only 4 feet. It was really, really small. And I was like, nope, there's no way I could fit. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Michael B says, I create methane all the time. Go ahead. Sokolowski says that it's not that scary. Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Chernobyl flourishing with plant and animal life. If you dare ask anyone of your callers why, all lies about nuclear deadlines. That is a good point. It is beautiful there in a lot of those areas. They seem Chernobyl still bad though. It's not exactly the example I would use. Chernobyl's still pretty bad. Humans lasted, how many hundreds of thousands of years without power? Many humans would perish if the power grid went down for a long period of time. Definitely, however, humanity would go on. Yeah, a lot of people, I know that there are some people who could not resort to what would be considered 18th century lifestyle. Other people would be all thumbs in that atmosphere. That was Unapologetic Eric in the chat room talking about that. If you're still walking from 85th, I think I'm misunderstanding exactly what that is. So I don't know exactly whether or not you would be able to be underground for long periods of time without suffering from cabin fever or hysteria, claustrophobia. I don't know. It seems weird enough. Before we go to break, I'll take Michael in Higginham, which I always pronounce poorly. How are you, Michael?
Good. How you doing, Reese?
Pretty good, sir.
As far as this whole conversation, I've been to Hiroshima.
Okay.
About a couple of years ago. My wife works for Pratt & Whitney.
Okay.
And she'd have to go to Japan often. Hiroshima is one of the most beautiful cities on the planet. So I'm not falling for this whole thing of you get wiped out.
Because, we're talking, 70 years post, right? We're looking at 70, 80 years now.
It's absolutely a beautiful city, wonderful people. Yeah, it's incredible.
So you're saying that should there be nuclear fallout, you're saying in one of these shelters, it wouldn't last all that long before, if in other words, if they had a significant supply of oxygen underneath the ground, give it a considerable amount of time and people would be able to come back up to, come above ground and flourish after the fact.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, again, one of the most, I've been to London, I've been to Canada. This was easily the most beautiful place I've ever been.
I've heard that before, and a lot of people are saying that in the chat room. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you, sir. Thanks for the call. All right, when we come back, more news, more views. We'll talk about this. I'll see if there's any updates to the James O'Keefe story. There doesn't appear to be any as of yet, but we'll keep checking. Let's get another check of your weather and traffic with Jason Caterina, who's got two friends. Applaud that man. And Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center, who has, 43, 98 friends? What is it?
No, I only got 5 or 6. Yeah, that's all I need. That's enough.
Reese on the radio is getting ready to drop some knowledge on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Drop it. Yeah, we are back. Did you guys see this video? I've got to play it for you. It just shows you exactly how bad it has gotten over at MSBET. I forgot they have music now.
You talk too much.
Oh, that's wrong. There we go. MSBET. We got the news. If you haven't seen it, this is them. You can hear them. This is Simone Sanders and former RNC chair Michael Steele after they, did their show on MSNBC. And, of course, they are dancing around excited after finishing their job and then celebrating the fact that they're going to go out and drink and eat. Here are these sloppy mofos leaving the studio.
Back out, so we finished.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I need a drink. I need a drink. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And we're going to eat. We're going to drink. We're going to party. We're going to eat. We're going to drink. And we're going to be back tomorrow.
Meanwhile, in the back, they're like working.
It's just so disgusting. And, of course, their white counterparts are a good 30, 40 feet behind them saying, look at these fools. While they're dancing in the hallways, shucking and jiving. It's absolutely insulting These are supposed to be serious news people. That's supposed to be the so-called former head of the RNC, and he's dancing in the hallways. We're going to eat. We're going to drink. We're going to eat. We're going to drink. Some people should be ashamed of themselves. Now I understand the whole black fatigue thing. I just do. It's embarrassing to watch. It is. That's why I make fun of them. MSBET. We got the news.
You talk too much.
Just be professional. Just be professional. That's all. Just be professional. Stop looking like a bunch of fools. Shinning and grinning. Sloppy. Break out the Hennessy, Michael. By the way, just so I can tell you, yeah, when I was drinking, I used to say this thing. It was one of my favorite jokes that I would tell. And it was like, hey, what's your drink of choice? And I was like, well, I probably, I'll drink beer. Like I'm a Yuengling guy. I did Budweiser for a long time, but I my last drinks, as far as beer was concerned, I did Yuengling a lot, or Sam Adams. I was a lager guy. So I love that. I love that kind of beer. I was like sort of like a brown ale. That was my thing. But if it was hard liquor, it was either Jameson's, maybe a Dewar's. Scotch or whiskey was my other drink of choice. And it was like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, yeah, but I don't believe in drinking any liquor that ended in A. And guys would look at me and say, what liquor ends in A? I was like, Hennessy, Alizé, Tanqueray. I never had any of that stuff. Any liquor that ends in A. I didn't touch any of that stuff. 860-522-WTIC. Let's go to Barbara in Glastonbury. Hello, Barbara.
Hi. You were talking about the Nautilus. I'm sorry, not the Nautilus. The submarine you went to with Roseanne in Virginia, in Norfolk?
In Norfolk, it's the Wisconsin?
Yeah, okay. I think so. But anyway, what I was calling about was there's one in Connecticut, the Nautilus in Groton. That is a wonderful place. It was opened in 1986. We took our son there years ago. We've taken our two grandsons there. And a really quick, funny story.
Yes.
The first time we went with our older grandson, Electric Boat and the Nautilus have two very close entrances. We took the wrong entrance. We went into Electric Boat. We had police coming out with machine guns pointing it at us.
Wow.
And we said, I'm sorry, we're just going to the Nautilus. And so they said, oh, no, you have to turn around. This is Electric Boat. I said, okay. So, or it was actually the Coast Guard base, whichever. So we had to turn around and we had to be escorted out.
Oh, wow.
So we leave there, and we are laughing hysterically. We are saying, can you believe it? They thought these two old folks coming with their grandson, what are we going to do?
Take over the take over the ship, right?
Our grandson in the back seat, he is not laughing. He says, I don't think this is very funny. All of a sudden we thought, my God, he saw those machine guns. He's right. So we got home. We told this to our son. And Tom goes, Mom, we've been there before. There's two distinct entrances. I know, but they're so close and the signs were together. We took the wrong one. So he said, I can't believe that. So our grandson wanted to go the following week. So our son took him. Mm-hmm. And guess what happened to him?
No, he
said,
did
Mom,
not.
He would apologize. He said, I did the same thing you did. And Tucker was not amused.
Poor boy. That poor young man went through too traumatic.
Yeah, but we were vindicated. We were vindicated after he mocked us. Oh, Mom, So that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's beautiful. I was actually in Groton. I was in town in Groton and didn't have enough time to go check it out because I'm fascinated at people who live within those close quarters. It takes a certain type of person to do that.
Oh, I know. And you have, it seems like maybe 18 inches between, where you're lying and the the top of the bunk ahead of you. They're
Yeah.
like lined up about 5 or 6. It's really scary.
Yeah,
but
it is.
To be underwater. Yeah.
Exactly.
And Mamie Eisenhower was the one who commissioned that.
Yeah, that's it's a fascinating life. Even if you've never gone through wartime, just being there and experiencing that, always on edge, and sometimes you're in hostile water, and it's fascinating. But thank you so much for that story.
Funny thing to say, just one other funny thing to say. I grew up with, because I'm 76. Oh, 77 now. Sorry, forgot my birthday. I grew up with my father telling me stories of World War II, and he never saw action, so his stories were actually funny.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you so much, Barbara. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
you got
okay. Love your show.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. I appreciate you. Bye bye. Yeah, like I said, I'm fascinated at people who can. I would go stir crazy. I would go stir crazy in that condition, and people, I think I know my father-in-law was in the Navy, but I know he was on warships. He was on above ground or above water. In his case, I would never even think of being in just those close quarters alone. I just couldn't do it in my head. I just can't possibly do it. Let's take Bert. Hello, Bert. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Norwich, Connecticut. I used to be on submarines.
Please, I'm dying to hear this. What was now? Does it take a certain capacity of a person to be inside of a submarine for extended periods of time, or did you ever go stir crazy?
Not really, because you keep busy enough where your mind's really not on it. I think the people that shouldn't be on there probably are people who have claustrophobia or something like that. But that's the old submarines. But I just wanted to correct that very nice lady who went to the wrong place. The Nautilus is right next to the submarine base.
Oh, okay.
And if she snuck on the submarine base, then there were probably Marines out there with machine guns, and I can see that. So.
Oh, okay. So that's probably who accosted her when she did. But now I want to go back to this thing about being in the submarine, because you said that you wouldn't recommend it for someone who is claustrophobic. What is the longest period of time that you were inside of a submarine? Was it like 6 months, 3 months? What was your extended experience?
Well, I was on a boat called USS Tollaby for a long time ago, and old submariners can identify with that. Probably a month.
A month. Now, did you ever have someone on your crew that kind of
had to be taken off?
Yeah, for lack of a better term. Like I was going to say, go stir crazy, kind of lose it. Did you ever experience that?
Yes, we did, and it's very inconvenient for the submarine and our duty, because then they have to send a tugboat out to pick the guy up.
Wow. Does he get Section 8? Does he get a Section 8 if something like that happens?
I just don't think he comes back on submarines. It's not a good thing for being clandestine, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The other alternative is put them in the freezer,
Real? No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just trying to understand, because I would assume, and in someone who's enlisted, who's never been on a submarine before, ends up on a submarine. This is the first time they're experiencing it, and all of a sudden they find out right there, live action. Holy crap! I'm not suited for this, and he completely goes, off the reservation. He's, trying to compose himself, but he just can't seem to do it. I can imagine that could be. Like, shouldn't you be prepared for that?
Plus, the boats today are bigger today.
Right.
I mean, they're a lot bigger. I was on a boat that was sort of similar to the Nautilus. Have you ever seen Das Boot?
Yeah, sure. Das Boot. Yeah, sure.
Well, there was a scene in it where there was cabbage in the overhead, and it was dripping. And on my boat, it was very similar to Das Boot. I looked up in the overhead, and there was a head of lettuce. It wasn't dripping, but I went, "Oh my goodness," you know.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that. Like I said, every day my brain would be putting me in a position to say, "What if?" And I probably wouldn't be able to recover for that. My imagination would run wild in that scenario. It does it often.
But it was the greatest experience of my life. I'm glad I did it. I wish every young man should experience at least 1 or 2 years in the military. I think it'd be very good.
You know what? Every person who's ever served, my wife included, says that. It's why every kid she ever meets, she encourages them to enlist. Every one of them.
Yeah, it's good discipline. It gives you perspective, and you learn a lot about life. I did.
I hear you. Thank you so much, Bert. Much appreciated on the call. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got plenty of news and plenty of views to get into before we wrap this up. Don't forget, you can win the opportunity to get a dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe. Call us up at 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. You'll return in a bit to wrap this puppy up and do it all over again tomorrow. Here's Jason Caterino with weather and Mark Christopher. He's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. Yeah, we're back. It's Reese on Radio News Talk 1080 WTIC. So James O'Keefe did finally just release the first tape. Let me just give you what the headline reads. World exclusive, Prince Andrew was blanking underage girls. Tape of royal family advisor exposes Prince Andrew's relations with minors and deep ties with Jeffrey Epstein. So apparently this advisor, this royal family advisor, is being videotaped, and he's talking to other people and casually discussing Prince Andrew's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. This is the first of the videos to be released. It is on James O'Keefe's Twitter feed, which is, of course, I think it's James O'Keefe 3 or 3rd on X. I will disseminate it. Like I said, he just brought out. The video is roughly about 6 minutes, 31 seconds long in that. But the audio is a little, it sucks for radio when you have to try to play that audio. It never ever comes over or conveys very well on radio. But it is there. We will do what we can to at least make sure that it can be heard tomorrow, or if any other tape is released. I doubt that there's going to be any more. I think James O'Keefe is probably stretching this out day to day, but this is the first. And again, this particular individual, again, is a royal family advisor, and his name is John Bryan. And and apparently he is talking to one of James O'Keefe's journalists undercover at the time, and they're just having a conversation at dinner. So I guess this is going to get far worse. And it appears that the teaser that was put out that suggested it was going to be about the Epstein files and the Epstein names was going to, that was exactly what it was. So, again, we'll check into that. I'll watch the video again during the commercial break, see what it is I can get from it or glean from it. So, of course, I can report to you. If you'd like to check it out yourself, please do. You can find it online now. How this relates to Pam Bondi, I could only suspect because of these videos that have been coming out. Let me see if I could. This was Pam Bondi yesterday, I think, talking about a report that there were hundreds of files that were missing.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now.
So that's what she's saying. There's just the volume. There is no delay. It's just a lot of people that they're trying to protect, according to Pam Bondi. Like I said, we'll report, and you'll have the information in your hands. Let's get another check of the weather and traffic, as we do. At this time, Jason Caterina has your weather, and Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Matt.
What's up, everybody? You know who it
You know who it is.
You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
Yeah, so I've sat back and I started watching this video, and I'll get to your phone calls in a second. Pick up the phone, 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. So after getting an opportunity to sit through this video, a little bit more of it, let's talk about it real quick. John Bryan, who they're calling Prince Andrew's crisis advisor and an advisor to the British royal family, this guy is no fly-by-night guy. And there's documented evidence of this, and just shows you how crazy this story is. And as James O'Keefe has described, this is probably the biggest get of his career. I didn't know who this guy was because I don't follow the royal palace or the royal family in any way. So let me set this up. John Bryan, the reason why he's so close to Prince Andrew, works like this. He used to work for Queen Elizabeth. In working for Queen Elizabeth, he became very close to Princess Diana. As he puts it, he and Princess Diana were good friends, if not best friends, he describes in the video. This then parlayed into a relationship with none other than Sarah Ferguson. Sarah Ferguson, the ex-wife of Prince Andrew. Yeah. He began a long relationship with Sarah Ferguson, publicly known, where he raised Sarah Ferguson's two children, Prince Andrew's two children. And when Prince Andrew got into the sort of situation where allegations started to come out about his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, and I think her name is Guthrie, the young lady who they say now committed suicide.
Be right back.
This guy, John Bryan, was called in as a consultant to Prince Andrew. And he says in the video that he went out and did an interview with the UK Daily Mail saying that this wasn't true and none of it happens. But he says in the video, talking to this undercover agent, that he was lied to and that Prince Andrew definitely was sleeping with underage girls on Epstein's Island. That's why it is so significant. That's why the story is so huge. Because in essence, it's the first confirmation from somebody who is that close to the family to confirm that the allegations against Prince Andrew are true. So as this goes on, I'm pretty sure, I mean, the argument is whether or not there are going to be criminal charges that stem from this. James O'Keefe is suggesting that if something doesn't come of it, heads should roll. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. 860-522-WTIC is the telephone number. White Mike, calling all the way from Florida.
Hey, man. So, buddy, I have my new favorite news story of the day.
Fine. What is it? Please tell me it's the 12-foot. Is it the 12-foot statue of the plus-size woman in Manhattan?
No.
Okay.
So I got home and opened up Facebook, and NBC News has a story about. Remember, I don't know if you covered it today or not. Remember the case of Tyree Nichols in Memphis?
Yes, very. In fact, I was going to cover it tomorrow because I'm still laying this out. So if I'm right, all 5 police officers were acquitted.
Well, let me read you the best, most liberal headline I've ever read, okay?
Gotcha.
As from NBC News, it says, Memphis police officers found not guilty of all state charges in Tyree Nichols' beating death. Defendants Kadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith were accused of fatally beating the 29-year-old capital B black man on January 7th, 2023.
Yes.
They're all black.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes, they are.
There's not a cracker in the bunch. But they had to specify that the victim was black, as if saying the names Kadarius and Demetrius didn't tell me the cops were also black.
We watched the video. It was a national news story. In fact, we heard, we heard commentators like Michael Eric Dyson go on MSNBC and say that black people could be white supremacists too because of this case.
Buddy, look, Dude, I'm normally very pro-police, and I'm okay with cops throwing a corrective beating, but those dudes beat him to death, and they were wrong.
Yeah.
Like, they held him, two of them held him, one of them beat his ass, and they let him off. So I want to know who was on the jury. Was
Memphis.
this the jury of, it's Memphis, so it's clear there's some black people on the jury.
Clearly.
So are these black people that didn't want to send black cops to jail?
Exactly.
Or were there some, like, Memphis racists who were like, no big loss here. Good job, officer.
No. I'm telling you, this town. Look. You're right in my wheelhouse on this Memphis thing. That town, which used to be my favorite city in the country, Memphis, and again, notwithstanding, it was probably back in the 90s when it was, but that thing has turned into such a hole, if you will, that it is unrecognizable today. Unrecognizable.
So they let these black cops who legit beat that dude to death.
Yeah.
And probably because he was banging one of the cops' ex-girlfriends.
According to reports, that's correct. Worked at FedEx.
These dudes got off for beating a black dude to death.
Again.
And now the question is, are they going to riot?
I haven't even heard from my blacktivists who listen to this show. They haven't even mentioned it. There's been no story. Nobody even cares.
For me to say they were out of line, they were out of line because I think cops should hit people more often. But they beat that dude to death.
No, and again, it was all on dash cam video.
On video, like when I watch it and go, ugh, then you know it's bad. If they let those dudes off, man, I don't know what to think. That messes up the whole narrative.
It was. I'm telling you, as soon as I saw it, when I heard it at the top of the hour, John Silver had talked about it, and I had to double check it. I was like, did John Silver just say that they were acquitted? And I know that 2 officers are facing federal charges, and they're probably going to be civil rights violations, which again is going to be
civil rights charges.
Yeah,
of course.
But
which is going to be funny when black cops are accused of violating a black guy's civil rights. I mean, are we?
It's an incredible story. No one's covering. It's got to be the one of the most. But again, like I said, I'm getting the details so I can follow it up tomorrow because I think it's appropriate for Negro nonsense. I mean, can we be honest?
That's really, and it's really funny that the Chinese guy who wrote the article had to capitalize black in the victim, but didn't say 4 black officers acquitted of beating the black guy.
It's so typical. So typical. Thank you, boss man. I appreciate you.
Sir.
You got it. Let's go to Craig in the car. Hello, sir.
Greetings from Atlanta Motor Speedway, my friend Reese Hopkins.
No doubt. Okay, Atlanta Motor Speedway. So I can definitely insist that you are in a safe space because you are not in Atlanta, or as people call Atlanta, what is it called now? The Mecca? Is that what it's called now?
I don't know what it's called, but we're out in the boonies out here, and I have to thank you.
What's that for?
I just spent 3 days with 120 guys from Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, and the Carolinas.
Okay.
And to ensure I have Southern PTSD, you make me follow White Mike again.
I'm sorry. He called before you. You're going to have to be a little quick on the draw on this one, which, by the way,
I have a job, too.
I understand that. How are you hanging out with 120 people? That's a lot of people to have to intermingle with. For me, that's like being at a nightclub.
Well, I work for a commercial truck manufacturer.
Right.
And once a year, we have training sessions that happen. This year happens in 4 locations. We did Atlanta, Vegas, Cleveland, and Dover, Delaware. I picked Atlanta, and it gets split up in amongst those 4 places. And there's about 120 to 150.
But do you have to know? Do you have to remember 120 people? I did Stupidest thing I read today, which is this Mark Zuckerberg story about your friends are going to be AI, he says, because every person desires 15 friends. And I'm like, that's not true. There's no truth to that whatsoever. You come a certain age, nobody needs 15 people in their life. When you go to a job or you go to a convention and you got 150 people there, do you have to memorize at least like 50 people? Are you forced to have to do that?
No. Out of 140, I'll tell you, I can recognize 50. I could name 40, and 30 I'll hug.
30 you'll... You're doing better than me, sir. I couldn't remember that many people. Way too many. Way too many.
Part of the job. It's part of what I do. It's I'm on a certain level with the company where more people know me than I know them, and I try to make sure that's not the case. I try to get to know everybody. I've had a really good mentor in doing that.
Well, you have to watch that Saturday Night Live skit where they have these three guys on the panel, and then they bring out somebody that they're supposed to know. And my favorite one is they have this one contestant, and his best friend comes out, and he goes, "Hey, Tom, how are you?" And he goes, he said, "For $500,000, name his girlfriend," who's standing right next to him, and the guy can't remember her name. And she goes, "Come on, you remember my name? We just had dinner on Thursday." He's like, "Nope, not ringing a bell." I'm that guy.
God. I got to say one thing about the people in the South, man. I didn't meet not one mean one. They're all nice.
The South is interesting like that, but don't get lured in. That's how they lure you in. They're all nice to you. Yeah. Like I always say, I'm always fearful of people who call me brother because I grab my heart and my wallet because I know they're going to take something from either place, if not both.
All right. I'll make sure I don't refer to you as my brother.
What's up, brother? Have a good one. Let's get to our last but not least caller of the day, and that is going to be Evan. How we doing, sir? Evan, thank you for calling the show.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So on the Prince Andrew thing, I mean, it's hilarious. Like, he's on the flight logs. We all know what was going on that island. It's well documented, right?
Correct.
So, like, who else was on the flight log? Bill Clinton and Hillary, okay?
I think they show up 7-8 times. They show up on the flight log 7-8 times, according to, I think, yesterday's report.
Yeah, and you know who showed up 3 times?
Whom?
Donald Trump.
Oh, you know what? I'm so glad that you said that. I am so glad that you said that because I was looking at a video just the other day, and I was absolutely glad that I found it. Because I was going to play it as soon as somebody mentioned that Donald Trump was on that flight. Please listen closely.
Let's do it.
Our current president has had relationships with Epstein in the past, and there are those Katie Johnson and maybe other victims who accused Trump of being involved in things like
Can't hear nothing.
Hold on.
In my experience, Trump supporters will not listen to anything along those lines. Obviously, we're not a court of law here right now, but are those claims of that case was dropped? It was dropped before it went to court. In your opinion, as a lawyer and your experience, is there anything you can say as to the validity of those claims, or whether or not there will be any more about that?
Nothing at all. The only thing.
This is attorney Brad Edwards. This attorney is a representative of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. This independent reporter is asking Brad Edwards about people who were asked to come forward to testify or to give any information they knew about Jeffrey Epstein and his actions. Listen to attorney Brad Edwards talk to this reporter.
That I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, "Let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know," and was very helpful in the information that he gave and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009.
What say you, sir?
I don't really understand the point. So Trump said, I didn't do anything? Is that
No,
what we're going for?
Trump said that the victim's attorney sent out subpoenas to get information about Jeffrey Epstein and his actions. He said, and I quote, "The only person who returned his phone call and gave him active information was Donald Trump." The only person in 2009 while president of the United States.
I mean, sounds great. So, like, what does that have to do with him being on the flight logs to Sexual Assault Island?
Well, so that's absolutely fantastic. What about Eminem and Jimmy Kimmel?
If they were on the flight logs, they were on the flight logs.
Which
Terrible,
means
right?
which means what? Which means that Jimmy Kimmel has committed a crime, right?
I would say anybody on the flight logs there went to that island for one purpose. We know what it was.
Again, so I listen to what you're saying here. If they're on the flight logs, they went there to do something nefarious or criminal. Yes?
Yeah.
Go check the flight logs again, sir. I promise you'll call back. And
Trump's on it 3 times.
You wait a minute. Trump's on it 3 times. Okay. Again, who else is on it? Because I know that you're implicating
anybody on the flight logs. We're not being hypocrites here, right?
No. Nobody's
listen
to me. Nobody's playing. No one is playing the hypocrite game. Nobody's playing the hypocrite game. I never said. You said you were the one who started this conversation by saying Donald Trump's on the flight logs. And now, Jesus, why do you wait until the end of the show? You should have called earlier, Evan. I got to get out of here. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your mind. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on radio. He's Mark Christopher and Jason Catarina. There's in the BPS Traffic Center. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Reese. If you're traveling 5 and 15 southbound, a crash in Hartford.
I should have grabbed him earlier.
Left lane.
All right, sir.
So
Have a good night.
You too. Enjoy your night. Yes, you should have grabbed him earlier.
I know.
84 is tied up, approaching the Bulkley Bridge out to 45 Flatbush, 84 eastbound, slowing a half mile.
All right. He has more than what? He has more info than he has published. Another trumpet. Yeah, exactly. It's always the same. It's the same nonsense. Anyway, you guys be good. I will see you mañana, and we'll see if any more of these tapes actually come out. Hopefully it'll be more than one. I don't think, what's the name? James O'Keefe's going to get away with just this 6-minute video. He's going to have to do better than that. All right, you guys have a wonderful night. I will see you mañana.